And I'm trying to think of it. I'm trying to already edit it in my head. It's like a 6-minute story. I'm gonna try and get it down to like 2 or 3. So, well, yeah, but there's all this music to play, and like it's late, and you have to miss the train. This is not a good story to sing. It's a telling story.
Woo!
So, by way of introducing the story, I have to introduce my sound guy, Dave, Mr. Psycho Dave.
Yeah, Dave! Yeah, Dave!
Who was at the bar. I love you, Dave. He's like, the bitch is gonna talk. I'm gonna totally go get a beer. You were. I love you. Dave has also been managing my tour for the past week because it's just been me and him flying around to different cities in the world, bringing the people their music. And we were on this, we were delayed. Our flight from Toronto to New York was delayed and possibly cancelled, and we were really worried, and we finally got on the flight really late. And Dave took a seat in the back, and I took a seat sort of, it was one of those little putt-putt planes that only fits like 30 people, and it's really scary, and you think you're going to die like Buddy Holly. I was in the exit row, and I had my ukulele in my backpack, and so I couldn't sit there because there's no place to put my luggage up top, so Dave and I switched seats, and Dave was sitting in the very, very back row across from this really old man, like really old, like in his late hundreds. And I switched with Dave, and Dave was like, "You have to help him," and then Dave ran away. And so I sat down, and the guy was like, I think he was, I think he was Arab. He had a big white turban, and he was wearing all white, and had little white shoes, and he was probably 90. He was super tiny and super frail, and his face looked like it was made out of like a gazillion pieces, and he had like beautiful, wise, old person eyes and this great smile, and he didn't speak a word of English, like nothing, not even nothing. And he had this notebook with him that had a bunch of Arabic writing in it and some phone numbers, and he kept gesticulating to it wildly. And I was like, "Do you want me to call? Like, we're still on the ground, our flight is really late, maybe you need to call someone in New York." And he was like, and I was like, and he was like, and I was like, "The phone, do you need the phone?" And he was like, and I was confused, and the flight attendant came by, and the guy was like, and the flight attendant was like, and we were all really frustrated because of the language barrier. And then he finally, he flipped to the last page of his notebook, and it had this note that was obviously written in English by somebody else that said, "I don't speak any English. I need a wheelchair when I arrive at the airport." And I was like, this I understand, I can read it. And I called the flight attendant, and I was like, "He needs a wheelchair when we get to the gate." And the flight attendant was like, "Well done, young man," or young woman, as I was. And so, "We'll get you a wheelchair at the gate." And I was like, "Yay, okay, we solved the problem." And the man gave me like this really great, kindly old man smile with his crackly, wizened old face, and I was like, "Yay, old man." And then he kept sort of gesticulating, and I was like, I don't know. And then like the plane took off, and I worked on my Mac, and he stared out the window, and everything was good. And then we landed, and he took out his notebook again, and he gesticulated. And I was like, "Okay, do you need to use my phone? Do you need to call someone?" And he was like, pointing to that. And I was like, "I bet you need me to call that phone number." So I took the notebook from him, and I called using my BlackBerry and my cellular technology, and I called the phone. And I handed it to him, and then he talked to someone, and I was like, "This is great." He's like, "Things are getting worked out, I was right." And then he hung up the phone, and he gave it back to me. And then he looked at me. We had just landed in New York, and we were in this queue of planes, and it was last night it was really stormy, and you could just see the New York skyline out the window. It was beautiful. And he sort of made this gesture to me, like, I think what he was asking me is, "Are you home?" Because he was sort of like doing an all-encompassing gesture, and then a here, and then a me gesture, and then a here gesture, sort of like. And I was like, wow, that's a really good question. I feel like the answer is yes. I feel like I am totally home because I am happier looking at the New York skyline than I am ever looking at the Boston skyline. That's not the end of the story. I said, "Yes, I'm home." And I gave him this look, and he gave me this look. And he took my hand in his hand across the aisle, and he held it, and he looked at me with his old eyes, and he kept squeezing my hand, and was just like, and I was like, oh. He was like, oh. And I had a total moment, and then we finally let go of each other's hands, and I put my hand back in my lap, and I just like looked out the window, and I was like, oh, life is fucking awesome. I'm in New York. It's a great show tomorrow. The old man is awesome. And then he took his right hand, the same hand that he'd held my hand in, and he reached over, and he copped a feel.